Hey, what's going on guys, Khraze here, welcome back to Outriders, and today we're gonna take a look at an updated version of the Trickster CT15 firepower build. This build right here has helped me a ton with this class right now, especially with emergency stance being pretty much fixed, as well as with enemies seemingly dealing a lot more damage. In this video we're gonna go over the build that's going to help you better survive, even face roll many of these situations, and also keep a lot of the high damage that you can deal with this class. So let's jump right into it. Now, right off the bat, the build is going to continue to be pretty much the same. I haven't changed anything. We're still pretty much basing ourselves off the fact that we can cast deception and movement skills very fast, like 5 to 6, 7 seconds cooldown at most, and we're gonna be using a ton of close range and weapon damage, especially for shotguns and whatnot. So that's basically going to be the staple of it. Now, there are some changes you can apply in case you're not surviving as long with the Trickster. Maybe you're transitioning to CT15, and that's by trying to go a little bit into the middle over here of the middle tree and trying to get anomaly persistence for some maximum health and immunity, increase your resistance by another 15%. But in that situation you might have to sacrifice some of the other skills and passives right here. Now, I haven't yet fully tested this, but it can work really well, especially if you're lacking that resistance when enemies cast spells on you. Now, as far as the skills go, it's pretty much the exact same. Hunt the Prey with Venator's Knife with Twisted Rounds. Of course, the first two are going to keep that damage buff 70%, 99% of the time on, because you have a really low cooldown on that. But the mod distribution is the one that changes a little bit. I'm still using the Death Shield with Embalmer's Rage and Fortress, but I am also combining it with the Vampiric / Regenerate build. So the advantage right here is the fact that this build doesn't make use of the Yugake headgear that would give you that ammo replenish on Hunt the Prey, and instead you're using something different. So it's going to be helpful if you didn't yet get a chance to get that cowl and get the tier 3 mod out of it. So in this case I made use of a Tanner's hat. Now, you don't really have to use this one, but it came in with the right stats. It also already had the buckshot shells on it, so the only thing I did was slapping a vampiric mag onto it, since we will go with the vampiric build. Then we're also going to be using the Vein Ripper. Critical shots inflict bleed on enemies, which is going to be a perfect synergy with Embalmer's Rage, which is going to fully make it possible for you to constantly crit and apply those bleeds onto the target. And then we're also combining that with the Thirst for Blood. So essentially we're applying bleeds despite having no bleed kind of mod on our gear, and we're doing so because of these passives, and Vampiric Mag is the one that is helping us with the ammo replenish. Now, one of the big problems that Death Shield with this combo right here has is the fact that it simply kills enemies too fast, and because it one-shots enemies, it means that the bleed effect doesn't happen, and it means that Vampiric Mag doesn't get to proc. Well, we're fixing that with Ammo Bargain in this case, which makes our shots to replenish 20% of our ammo in our magazine, but you do need the tier 3 Ammo Bargain mod on your gear. And I know what you're saying next, why would I even need Vampiric Mag if I already have the Ammo Bargain? Well, reason being is that Ammo Bargain simply isn't enough, especially since you're lacking the tier 3 mod on that Yugake cowl that would give you ammo replenish on teleports. So that's why we're combining that with Vampiric Mag, and I can keep the ammo replenish up about 99% of the time, and I have to screw something really bad in order to not get some form of ammo replenish. Now, if you do happen to have that cowl or the tier 3 mod with the instant reload, then yes, in that situation you can completely drop off Vampiric Mag, since it's pretty much not needed anymore, and between the Ammo Bargain and instant reload you have all of the replenish you need for this Trickster build. But I will say that I would still keep that Vein Ripper with the Thirst for Blood under these circumstances, because you're still making use of that bleed with the weapon leech effect, and that's still going to provide you a ton of survivability. It's also a really awesome mechanic to have, and personally I would prefer this over just applying more resistance or more defensives, since this is going to be an active way of making up for the damage that is coming from the enemies. I just find it more engaging, more reliable, because you know that if you kill enemies or even hit enemies, as long as there's bleed effects on them, you will replenish by a ton. Now for the rest of the build and the mods, here is what I'm using. I'm using the buckshot shells on Tanner's head, which it already comes with it, and it's really helpful as we're using the shotgun damage. On the upper armor, I'm going with the mitigation from death. Previously we were running with a build that was actually using that emergency stance, but since then that is now almost useless for this build, so mitigation from death is helping a ton with that. From this point on, crit stack on the lower armor, I'm critting all the time, so it gives me a ton more firepower. For the gloves, I went with some personal space as well for some more close range damage, and then the foot gear has the best in slot, sharp eye and bloodlust, both of these providing a ton of damage, so it's going to help you quite a little bit. Now because we need that increased survivability, we're also kind of sacrificing one of the mods that we were using previously on this build, which was the tier 1 strong twist that would provide an additional firepower increase by 15%, so that had to go. Now it's a matter of preference if you want to pick this and sacrifice one of the other lesser mods, like for example if you have a buckshot shells to sacrifice that 10%, this firepower increase by 15% might be better. I'm just still hunting for a piece of gear to actually replace all of that. Another case that I want to make that I've mentioned previously is the circle of power. Now because we're running with a ton of weapon leech and a ton of damage leech, I didn't really find a reason to even use circle of power in this build, even though the resistance would definitely be welcomed. So in this situation I kind of have one recommendation depending what type of enemy you're going to fight the most, so you're going to want to replace either the one or the other. So if you go up against enemies that tend to deal mostly weapon or physical damage, then in that case simply stay with the mitigation from death, since that is going to be the go-to mod that is going to help you with that. On the other hand, if you're consistently going up against enemies that are using spells, like for example some of those really annoying anomaly enemies, or maybe some brood mothers, or maybe some alphas that yeah, they deal anomaly damage when they land upon you following a leap, then replacing that with a circle of power can be a better option, because this also works for this build. Like, you're constantly using skills and abilities on very low cooldowns. By the way, one small note here is that when you're using melee attacks, they also count as casting spells, so they also build up that additional resistance up. So yeah, you can combine these to quickly build that up and constantly keep it around 45%. Now it's a matter of what you get to sacrifice. Previously I was using both of these on the upper armor, sacrificing ammo bargain for that resistance up and combining it with mitigation from death, but I found out that because I was replenishing my HP so easily and was leeching HP from enemies so easily with this build, I did not need that anymore. And if you feel that you're dying a little bit too fast, again, you can sacrifice two of the smaller nodes in the top tree and try to aim for that immunity, so that combining that with the resistance from the tier 3 mod, you can reach 60% resistance to anomaly damage, which is going to bring you back on track to how you were before the recent update. Now on a final note, in case you do happen to have the Ugaki cowl and you got that tier 3 mod and you can use your ammo replenish when using Hunt the Prey, then what you can do in this case is to completely take out the Vampiric Mag out of your build, but you can still leave that Vein Ripper and the Thirst for Blood still in your build, because you can continue to apply those builds with that shield and still get a ton of weapon leech in the process, while still not having any worry about any of those ammo replenishments. So it's a matter of if you were lucky enough to get the cowl or if you weren't. In both of these situations, this build works exactly the same. It's going to keep you alive exactly the same. It's just that with that tier 3 replenish mod, it's going to be a little bit easier to keep ammo into your magazine. But this is it with the updated Trickster build. Thanks so much for watching. As always, if you enjoyed this video at any point, it would be super awesome if you left a like on it, subscribed and activated that notification bell, and I'll see you guys in the next one.